What unsolved mystery has absolutely no plausible explanation? About 2 years ago my sister was home alone while my mom was at work and I was at school. I finished early that day and was home at around 1 p.m. I was talking to my sister and she casually mentioned my mom came home for a while. Right away I thought that was odd because my mom works a few towns over and even if she came home on her lunch break she'd have to leave to go back by the time she got here, but I thought maybe she had an appointment or something, so I asked my sister if she said anything. Here's what my sister says happened. She was upstairs in her room when she heard the front door unlock, so she walked over to the stairs to see who it was. The stairs were facing the front door so you could see it from the top of the stairs, and saw my mom taking her coat off and hanging it up. She looked over at my sister without saying anything, after which my sister was just like, "Oh okay, it's just mom," and went back to her room. She also didn't hear her leave. When she told me this I was pretty spooked because my mom wouldn't have not said a word, she'd say hi at the very least. I proceeded to call my mom to ask her if she'd been home recently just to make sure, and just like I thought, she hadn't been home since she left that morning. We still don't know who or what my sister saw, but I was afraid of being home alone for the next 2 weeks lol. Personal mystery. 20 plus years ago I had a very brief job selling gas services door to door. Side note, I'm not good at selling things, especially those I don't truly believe in. Anyway, as dusk just started to arrive, near 5 p.m., I knocked on a door and an old woman answers. I gave her my standard "we can save you $1 by switching to 30 gas, we look over your latest bills and our offerings to compare?" She tells me, "I'm sorry, honey, I don't live here, this is my son's house, let me get him for you," and I politely accept. After maybe 5 to 7 of waiting, I think maybe they'd forgotten me or were trying to blow me off, so I have one last knock, and this time a younger man, mid-40s I guess, answers and asks if he can help me. I give him the same sales speech and he stops me midway and says now is not a good time, we just buried my mother today. I'm apologized and quickly backed away. I tell myself it was a nice way to mess with the door-to-door guy, but I really don't know to this day. I once did a magic trick in front of 20 people as a teenager. We had orchestrated it, so there were 2 of us. So the trick is, I ask someone from the audience to pick a card, hold it above their head in front of the crowd, but card back facing me, so the entire crowd sees the card. Now someone on the other side of the window behind the crowd also sees the card, and with the crowd facing forwards, they don't see him. So he plasters the card from another deck on the window, and when he's done doing that, I throw the entire deck at the window, and lo and behold, their card is now stuck on the other side of the window. What happened surprised not only the crowd, but myself and my co-magician as well. I throw the deck and the exact card is not only plastered on the other side of the window, it is also stuck on our side of the window, right next to it. My mind was blown and I still can't explain it to this day. We played it as a part of the trick, so nobody in that crowd knows what sort of black wizardry went down that day. I have a personal mystery. When I got home from uni and before I found a job, I had a period of time where I stayed at my family home. Due to being home alone often during this time, I tended to be the one who collected the mail and did odd home jobs. One day we had a particularly large amount of letters and parcel, for my brother's birthday, and because 2 trips are for weak people I struggled and carried them all into the house. I managed to throw the letters onto the table but about half slipped onto the floor. This is important. Thinking screw it, I carried the box upstairs to the office and come back down to pick the letters up. Yet, when I come back into the kitchen there are no letters anywhere. Confused, I check every downstairs table and eventually the mailbox. Nothing at all. Finally I go back into the kitchen and notice one of the kitchen chairs is slightly pulled out from under the table. I pull it all the way out and under the cushion on the seat is a neat pile of the letters. There was no one but me at home for a few hours before this. Utterly confused till this day. I bought my husband a watch for his 30th birthday engraved with his name. Not long after he lost it somewhere in the house. We searched everywhere for it but it couldn't be found. Fast forward 13 years and my husband has a heart attack and dies instantly. 2 weeks later our 2-year-old son walks out of the bathroom holding his watch. There are no cupboards in there, just a shower and bath. He's very excited to have it and to this day, I have no idea where he got it from. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes guys. I haven't shared this story with many people because it sounds too crazy. I'm very much a realist, not a believer in the paranormal or the unexplained or signs, which is why I'm still amazed when I remember it happening. My son has just turned 8 and the watch is in safekeeping until he's older. He and his twin sister struggled with separation anxiety for a couple of years after but are now amazing, compassionate kids. Their older brothers are just hitting adulthood and are becoming wonderful men. This is a personal one that happened not so long ago. The first time my girlfriend and I went to a motel, she took her necklace off and put it in a nightstand near the bed. A few hours after we left, she realized she wasn't wearing it and must have forgotten it back at the motel. I called and no one from the cleaning crew had seen it. Well, tough luck. We just assumed someone found it. It had a silver chain and a somewhat expensive pendant, and kept it for themselves. The following day I went back to my hometown. I lived 2 hours away, and apparently that was the end of it. Thing is, 2 or 3 weeks later I met with her again. We were just starting to see each other at the time, and since I'm from another city, I stay at my grandmother's house on weekends. Just as I was leaving the house for our date, I overhear my mother, aunt and grandma talking. They were questioning themselves about something they found and couldn't figure out who owned it. That something? The fucking necklace. Apparently my grandma found it literally in the middle of her bed, strewn over the sheets. I took it and gave it back to my GF, who had bought another one after she lost it, so now she has 2 identical necklaces. I've never been so dumbfounded in my life. There's no way the necklace was accidentally in my jeans pocket or something because it only reappeared 2 weeks after it was lost. I would have found them in my pockets in the meantime. My grandmother had never met my GF before and there's literally no way someone could have found it at the motel and sent it back to us, because I hadn't given an address or a phone number except for my cell phone to the motel staff. And if that wasn't enough, why in the middle of her bed? Lost my class ring when I was 20. About 8 to 10 months later I moved 1,000 miles away. Only brought a few clothes in my car. Someone hit me and totaled my car while there, twice. Be careful driving in Florida. Bought a new car, twice. Lived there for a year. Then moved about 200 miles away. A month after moving to the new town I receive a call from a church. They received a donation of clothes. While sorting them out they found a class ring with my name etched inside the band. My new home number came up when they searched my name. The church was about 2 miles from where we just moved. My wife didn't get rid or donate any clothes. I thought it must be a mistake, but decided to go take a look. Sure enough, it was mine. I looked through the clothes they found it in and they weren't mine or my wife's. Still no idea how it could have ended up 1,100 miles from where I lost it. I was given a potato in school, cannot for the life of me remember why, and I was having a weirdly good time playing with it. I went into my room and started throwing it up in the air and catching it, but one time I threw it up it just seemed to inexplicably curve backwards over my head. I heard it thump on the ground, but when I turned around to pick it up it was gone. I spent 10 minutes looking everywhere for it and it just wasn't there. When we moved house a year later and I was emptying my room I fully expected to find a gross, rotting potato somewhere, but still, it was nowhere to be found. I asked my parents and even my sister if they'd found and got rid of a potato in my room. Nobody had any idea about it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life wondering where the hell that potato went. I was at a friend's house in high school. He was gone to some family event, and I was there alone chilling till he got back. While he was gone, I heard footsteps in other rooms, things falling over, doors opening and closing. I freaked the fuck out and locked myself in one room. The footsteps came up right outside the door of the room I was in and just stopped. The room I was in had 2 windows, opposite sides of the room, curtains on each. A few minutes after the footsteps stopped outside my door, there was a very loud bang on both windows at the same time, and the curtains on both windows, opposite sides of the room, remember, flew straight out. I'm talking almost perfect 90-degree angle from the wall, as straight as a sheet of paper. I called my friend thinking he was fucking with me, he wasn't. I could hear his family in the background. I've gone through every possibility I can think of. I thought maybe an intruder. But no, his house is so small, I would have heard forced entry from anywhere in the house. The footsteps wouldn't make sense, they would stop in one place and then be heard again in a completely different part of the house. Nothing explains the curtain thing. They had no central AC so no air movement to account for that blowback, and nothing can account for the simultaneous bangs on both windows. He's told me over and over he believes his house is haunted. I've never believed in ghosts, but I questioned my beliefs that night. Edit, spelling. Edit, feel free to ask questions. This experience went on for an hour or more, so I really just hit the highlights. My husband and I were once on a MAX train in Portland when some stoners got on and sat across from us. They were all loudly bored and hungry, and one of them was scrounging around under the seats. As we watched, he pulled a McDonald's bag out from under the seat a few sections behind him. That bag was full of food. He began distributing burgers to his stoner buddies, until the last guy said no thanks. I don't like burgers. Then the guy reaches into the bag and says that's okay. Here's a chicken sandwich. And he hands his buddy the last item. The bag had exactly enough for them to each have a sandwich, and adequately fed the guy who doesn't eat burgers. I still think about it. My girlfriend's cousin suddenly disappeared one day after she'd taken the bus to her university to change something around with her courses. She's a huge homebody and has been through some trauma in the past, so it was extremely unlike her to up and leave with no warning. All of the immediate family searched for her, including myself, for 2 days. We even got the police involved. Absolutely no sign of her. Her mom was able to get a hold of her cell signal and it placed her in a city about 40 minutes over, so we searched frantically there and again, nothing. A day after this, while my girlfriend's parents are out, they just find her walking down the road, by herself. They take her in. I'm guessing she was on her way home because it was about a 20-minute walk from her house, but she just can't give an explanation for why she'd disappeared or who she'd been with. She can't remember anything. I'm assuming there was some sort of trauma involved because her brain completely wiped it out, but we actually have no idea why she went missing and what happened, just that she turned up 3 days later on the side of the road.
Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe for more videos.